Dear friend, it's time to sleep. No matter what happened today, your priority is to sleep now. Maybe your boss has given you some cold shoulders. Maybe your partner has been off the rocker. They have smarted off to you. Maybe your children have been naughty to you. Just forget these things. You have to focus on sleeping. If you can't sleep well, your tomorrow is going to be a fiasco. Your enemies want to see you to be jeopardized. If you don't sleep well, you are going to be jeopardized. If you don't sleep well every night, your whole life will be jeopardized. Your health will be jeopardized. Your health, your sleep is everything. Their acts and words, just like a piece of SHIT for you right now. Your sleep is your diamond. I'm going to read a book called What They Don't Teach You at a Harvard Business School. You are going to be entering the dream paradise with my voice. I'm not a native of English speaker. Maybe my voice is not perfect, but I'm going to try my best. Let's begin. You are going to have a wonderful dream. Have a great night with my voice. What they can't teach you at a Harvard Business School. When I was at Yale Law School, I was told that as a business education, a law degree was every bit as valuable as an MBA, Master of Business Administration. Years later, having lectured at Harvard and a number of other business schools, I became convinced that it was, though both have definite limitations, when applied to the real world, as an introduction to business, an MBA or an LLB is a worthwhile endeavor, but as an education, as part of an ongoing learning process, it is at best a foundation and at worst a naive form of arrogance. The best lesson everyone can learn from business school is a awareness of what it can't teach you. All the ins and outs of everyday business life, those ins and outs are largely a self-learning process. Those experiences of someone like myself might make the learning shorter, easier, and a lot less painful. In the early 1960s, I founded a company with less than $500 in capital and thereby gave birth to an industry, the sports management and the sports marketing industry. Today, that company has grown into the International Management Group, IMG, with offices around the world and several $100 million in annual revenues. I'm probably better known as the guy who made Arnold Palmer all those millions than I am by my own name. In truth, Arnold Palmer made Arnold Palmer all those millions, though I think Arnold would agree that I helped, while the management of celebrity sports figures will always be very important to us, with Jean Claude Kelly, Jackie Stewart, Barjon Bark, Herschel Walker, Martina Navratilova, Chris Evert, and dozens of others among our list of more than 500 clients. It is only one aspect of what I do personally and what we do as an organization. Our television division produces hundreds of hours of original network programming throughout the world and sells thousands of modern hours for such clients as Wimbledon, the National Football League, the U.S. Tennis and Golf Associations, the World Ski Federation, the National Collegiate Athletics Association, and the Royal and Ancient Golf Club. Our marketing consulting division is retained all over the world by more than 50 blue-chip corporations. We do the personal financial planning and management for several hundred high-level corporate executives. We own 3 fashion agencies, and we have represented entities as diverse as the Nobel Foundation, the Vatican, and the English Catholic Church, and we are television consultants for the organizing committees for the 1988 Calgary Winter Olympics and the 1988 Summer Olympics in Seoul, South Korea. In more than 20 years, I suspect I have encountered every type of business situation and every type of business personality imaginable. I have had cybered the complex egos of superstar athletes and of their spouses, parents, lovers, neighbors, and camp followers. I have dealt with heads of state and heads of corporations, with international bankers and small-town advisors, with bureaucratic governing sports bodies and autocratic empire buildings. I have come in contact with every phase and facet of the entertainment, communication, and leisure time industries. And at one time or another, I have done business with practically every nationality on the face of the earth. What I haven't experienced myself, I have observed because of our affiliations with major companies throughout the world. I have been in countless executive suites and board rooms where I have witnessed a lot of companies in action, and have realized why a lot of them are incapable in action. I have seen every conceivable corporate style, culture, theory, and philosophy put to work, and noted why a lot of them never do. From my experiences and observations, I have drawn the advice in this book, covering selling, negotiating, starting, building, and running a business, managing people and personalities, getting ahead and getting things done. But in a way, this categoric breakdown is misleading, because what I What this book is really about is street smarts, the ability to make active, positive use of your instincts, insights, and perceptions, to use them to get where you want to go, preferably by the shortest route. Even this means jumping some fences or going through a few back alleys. Can you really learn to apply gut reactions to business? Perhaps not totally, but what you can learn of the results of straight, smart thinking. Much of what I see and do in business, from a self-effacing comment to intentionally provocative one, is designed to give myself a slight psychological edge over others, or to help me get the most out of others. That is what street smarts really is, an applied people sense. Whether it is a matter of closing a deal, asking for a raise, or motivating a sales force of 5,000, or negotiating one-to-one, of buying a new company or turning around an old one, business situations almost always come down to people situations, and it is those executives with a finely tuned people sense and an awareness of how to apply it, which invariably take the edge. The fairness to Harvard Business School, what they don't teach you is what they can't teach you, which is how to read people and how to use the knowledge to get what you want. Yet, that is exactly what this book can teach you: how to read people, how to influence their reading of you. Which is how to read people and how to use the knowledge to get what you want. That is exactly what this book can teach you: how to read people, how to influence their reading of you, and how to apply or customize both to any likely business situation. Business situations, of course, are just that, situational, but whenever possible, whenever a defined conscious act will generate a consistent subconscious response, I have also done the reading for you based on my own experiences and observations. I have recommended many specific techniques which can be directly applied with immediate and tangible results. Much of this advice is unconventional, not just to be different, but because I believe the dependence on conventional wisdom, on old ideals and antiquated methods is the biggest problem with American business today. Running a company is a constant process of breaking out of systems and challenging conditioned reflexes, of rubbing against the grain. People want to work, but policies suffocate them, and it would be impossible to write a responsive book that didn't address this problem, and the many disguises it wears. Business demands innovation. There's a constant need to feel around the fringes, to test the edges, but business schools, out of necessity, are condemned to teach the past. This not only perpetuates conventional thinking, it is stifles innovation. I once heard someone say that if Thomas Edison had gone to business school, we would all be reading by larger candles. My main purpose in writing this book is to fill in many of the gaps between a business school education and the street knowledge that comes from the day-to-day experience of running a business and managing people. Over the years, we have hired many MBAs from Harvard and elsewhere to work for us. In fact, in my more impressionable days, I guess this was one of my own conditioned reflexes. If you have a problem, hire an MBA. As we grew and got to areas in which we had less confidence or expertise, I reasoned that by virtue of their education, the MBAs were the best people to run these areas for us. What I discovered was that a master's in business can sometimes block an ability to master experience. Many of the early MBAs we hired were either congenital, naive, or victims of their business training. The result was kind of real-life learning disability, a failure to read people properly or to size up situations, and an uncanny knack for forming the wrong perceptions. In fairness to some of our employees, we do have a number of MBAs working for us who have made the adjustment to the real world quite nicely. But to assume, as I once did, that advanced degrees or high IQ scores automatically equal business smarts has often proved an expensive error in judgment. A number of years ago, Harvard Business School did a case study on the problem. Even in phrasing their questions, the students struggled to find an appropriate business school cubbyhole in which to place every conceivable business situation. Then, as if by turning a crank, they expect the appropriate solution to pop out. Obviously, neither people nor problems fit modes, and the very act of trying to make them do so distorts perceptions. Two old friends once met on the street after not seeing each other for 25 years. One, who had graduated at the top of his class, was now working as an assistant branch manager of the local bank. The other, who had never overwhelmed anyone with his intellect, owned his own company and was now a millionaire several times over. When his banking friend asked him the secret of his success, he said, "It was really quite simple. I have this one product that I buy for $2 and sell for $5. He said, "It's amazing how much money you can make on a 3% makeup. I do not have an innate prejudice against intellect, intelligence, or, for that matter, graduate degrees, but they are not substitutes for common sense, people sense, and street smarts. I suspect Harvard Business School recognizes this as well. I would like nothing more than to see this book become required reading there." Part 1. People. Let me tell you two stories. One involves a future president, the other a high-living golf pro. And though the incidents happened nearly a decade apart, they are linked in my mind. In 1963, I was in Paris for the World Cup golf tournament, where I happened to have two chance meetings with Richard Nixon. Once at the golf club, when he came by my table to speak to Gary Player. The other only a few days later, the Tour d'Argent, when he stopped to speak to Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus, with whom I was having dinner. Nixon's remarks were pleasant enough. What stayed with me was that on both occasions he used the same words, the exact same 5 or 6 sentences. It was though he were talking to stick figures rather than to real people, as though he had a fund of stock phrases for every type of person he was likely to meet, 5 or 6 sentences for a sports personality, a paragraph for a business leader, another for a religious figure. The other incident involved the flamboyant golfer, Doug Sanders. When we first started representing Doug, a lot of people told me we had made a mistake. Doug did have some Vegas in him. He ran with a fast crowd, got into his share of scrapes, and was known to make more than just a friendly wager every now and then. Some people thought he was too controversial for us and asked it why I trusted him. Quite frankly, I trusted Doug Sanders a lot more than some of the people who were questioning me, which brings me to my story. Once Doug played a golf exhibition up in Canada. He made all the arrangements himself. I didn't know anything about it, and since apparently he was paid in cash, I probably never would have known anything about it. But about a week after the exhibition took place, we received an envelope from Doug. There was no letter or note inside, only our commission in cash. I recall these incidents now because they demonstrate something important about reading people. What people see and do in the most innocent situations can speak volumes about their real selves. My accidental encounters with Nixon, for instance, indicated a certain insincerity and a degree of foolishness that I remembered 10 years later when he was forced to resign as the presidency. Nixon's troubles probably had as much to do with his foolishness as they did with Watergate. People don't like foolishness. They don't trust people, and they certainly don't want one running their country. In Doug Sanders' case, the fee for the exhibition was so insignificant, it might not have seemed worth the bother. But to this day, I can see Doug going back to his hotel room, pulling a wad of cash out of his pocket, counting out our commission, sticking it in an envelope, and scribbling out our address. This was so totally in keeping with Doug Sanders' character that nothing else would have occurred to him. One would like to believe that it was a future American president who exhibited quality of character, and Gulf Hassner, who came off as was a common, but the facts in these cases belie those conclusions. What does this have to do with business? Everything. In the business world, it is easy enough to adopt a corporate persona or several corporate persona, depending on the situation. Some people will act one way with their subordinates, another way with their boss, and a totally different way with people outside their company. But the real self, one's true nature, can't change color to suit its environment. In any ongoing business situation, sooner or later, either subliminally or out in the open, you are going to find that you are dealing with that person's real self. If nothing else, you want to hear that people are really seen as opposed to what they are telling you. You want to be able to put someone's deeds, his own business activities, into the larger context of character. Whether I'm selling or buying, whether I'm hiring or being hired, whether I'm negotiating or a contract or responding to someone else's demands, I want to know where the other person is coming from. I want to know the other person's real self. Business situations always come down to people's situations. And the more and the sooner I know about the person I'm dealing with, the more effective I'm going to be. Don't take notions for an answer. People will often make judgments about the others even before meeting them based on what they've heard or what they know about their company. They will even mistrust or ignore their own perceptions so as to make them conform to conclusions that have already been reached. At IMG, we often have to face the preconceived notions that exist about our own company. What we do is fairly visible, and a number of the magazine and television profiles about IMG or me stressed our power position in sports and painted us as tough, even ruthless negotiators. 9 out of 10 times this works to our advantage. People expect us to name big numbers, and their anticipation often makes it easier for us to get them. And when they find that we are actually fairly reasonable people to deal with, they are bowed over. But there's also every 10th guy who has so hardened himself to his preconceived notions that he has no perception of the business situation itself or of the people from our company with whom he is dealing. He is so prepared to be tough himself or to defend against our toughness, so he takes nice to meet you as a veiled threat. Obviously, his preconceived notions have made him incapable of any genuinely revealing insights. People reading is a matter of opening up your senses to what is really going on and converting this insight into tangible evidence that can be used to your advantage. Dave D. Bosscherry, the former basketball star, was a vice president of our television company for several years prior to his assuming his present position as general manager of the New York Knicks. Dave once had several frustrating meetings with an executive of an insurance company in Connecticut, whom he was trying to interest in sponsoring one of the television shows. The executive seemed genuinely interested in the concept, but was so overwhelmed to be dealing with Dave Bosscherry, he could never get past this fact or his own suspicions. If this was such a great opportunity, he reasoned, then how come just a regular guy wasn't trying to sell it to him? Use your insight. Dave Marr, the former PGA golf champion, and I were once joking about some of the great golf hustlers we had known when Dave came up with the first axiom of golf wagering: never bet with anyone who you meet on the first tee, he said, who has a deep suntan, a 1-iron in his bag, and squinty eyes. Shrewd insights into people can be gained simply through the powers of observation. In most busy situations, there's usually more to see than meets the eyes, a whole level of personal dynamics operating just beneath the surface. Most busy situations provide all sorts of tangible evidence that allows you to see beneath the surface. Sometimes these are the things that people see and do unconsciously, the way someone looks away at the sound of a particular question, for instance, but they may also be the acts that are neither simple or unconscious, such as the way someone chooses to face a particular thought. The point is that the clues for insight abound and are there to be used by anyone who is tuned into them. A surprising number of executives are not. They totally lack an awareness of what is really going on around them. Either they are too busy listening to themselves to listen to anyone else, or too involved in their own corporate presence to notice what someone else might be doing. I can't imagine anyone being effective in business without having some insight into people. Business itself is such subtle matter of taking a slight edge here, an imperceptible edge there. And every aspect of the process comes back to people, managing them, selling to them, working with them, simply getting them to do what you want them to do. Without insight, there's no subtlety. Insight allows you to see beyond the present. Suppose you had a way of knowing everything that was going to happen in business over the next 10 years. That information would not only make you wise, it would also make you successful and wealthy. Yet, it is your insight into people that gives you the ability to predict the future. A person's true nature, true self, can't change without situations. It is totally constant. The better you know the person, the more you can get beneath the facades, the more accurately you can predict how he or she is likely to react or respond in almost any busy situation. This knowledge can be invaluable. The process, of course, is precisely the modus operandi of the professionals, the psychics and fortune tellers who have been using the same tricks to tell the future for centuries. Psychics will size up their clients by observing them, how they act, how they look, what they are wearing, and by asking a few innocent questions from this information, they can see into the future, which is really a matter of telling their client what he or she wants to hear based on what has already been found out. The good ones can come up with some startlingly perceptive things based on the tiniest pieces of information. There are probably some psychics who would make excellent business executives. I also know a lot of business executives who would make terrible fortune tellers. Insight demands opening up your senses. I believe you can learn almost everything you need to know, and more than other people would like to know, simply by watching and listening, keeping your eyes peeled, your ears open, and your mouth closed. Guys, I have read a lot. Hopefully you like this video. And if you are into this video, please give me a like. I hope you have a beautiful dream. Maybe you have fallen asleep already. You are in a beautiful dream. That is my job. I'm so happy you are sleeping soundly right now. I'm so happy you have accompanied me for almost 40 minutes. I just wish you all the best for the next day. For the new day. A new day is going to be a new chapter. You are going to have a lot of fun. You are going to have a lot of beautiful times. Just forget the bad things given by your partner, given by your boss. Enjoy the current dreams and be happy. I'm so happy have been with you for almost 40 minutes. I love you so much, my dear friend. See you next time, and sleep tighter and have a beautiful dream. All the best. Have all of the beautiful dreams. Thank you.